A documentary that's insightful and interesting without tragedy.
What's up, everybody? So I know I'm a little bit late to the game, but I finally got a chance to watch and finish Being Eddie, the Netflix documentary on Eddie Murphy. And wow, it was way more than I expected, and it definitely illuminated a lot of things that I always thought about when it comes to Eddie Murphy. I think the main thing that really surprised me, it was just how grounded he is. I mean, with when you think of 80s movies and 80s movie stars, he's absolutely right up there. He's a part of what I like to call the big four movie stars. So you have Arnold and Stallone, you have Tom Cruise, and you have Eddie Murphy. And of those four, he's the third one to have a Netflix documentary. And I highly recommend the Arnold one and the Stallone one as well. Those are all very, very great and very different. And seeing him reflect on his life, on his career, on his impact, I thought was really, really refreshing. And especially being a black man in America, being the one of the first and only really truly big worldwide superstars, and yet he's still just he comes across as such a normal guy. And yet because of his career you have so many others. You have Dave Chappelle, you have Kevin Hart, and a slew of other really successful artists, and he was the one that basically paved the way. I mean, would Denzel Washington have the same kind of career had Eddie Murphy not come first? Would Samuel L. Jackson have the same career? It's interesting to kind of have these thoughts and ideas and let them marinate a little bit. And also, just the level of his talent, I think it is so underrated. Everyone talks about what an incredible stand-up comic he was. And I think he still would be if that was something that he was interested in pursuing. But he articulates this really well in the doc when he basically says that, to be a stand-up comic, there's a certain process that goes in it. And when he got to the level of stardom that he finally got to, it's kind of next to impossible to do that. If you're such a huge movie star and then you're trying to be a comedian, no matter what point in the process of working out and figuring out the joke or the bit, people are going to come, and then if you're not on your A level every single time, then there's going to you're going to suffer a little bit from it, as an artist. And he really does see himself like that. I mean, people kind of joke on his musical ability, but he's actually really good. He's a good guitar player. He's a good singer. He also plays piano. He shows a little bit of that in the documentary as well. So his talent is more than just being the funny man. He's an actual legit actor. And he kind of touches upon that because at one Oscar award ceremony, he actually makes a serious statement, and I think something along the lines of, if such and such doesn't happen, then, I'm never going to come back again. And then years later, when he gets nominated for Dreamgirls and then he doesn't win. Now, you can say that's just the Oscars being the Oscars and not always giving the right performer their due and the award at that moment. But could that decision have been influenced by something that happened many years prior? Maybe. I mean, he doesn't give a definitive answer on that, but it is a question to be asked. And so it was just kind of really nice to kind of revisit that time. And he has, as far as a decade is concerned, one of the all-time great filmographies from beginning to end. So he starts off with 48 Hours, moves on to Trading Places, does Beverly Hills Cop, then The Golden Child, which is criminally underrated. He has Coming to America. He has Beverly Hills Cop 2. And in all of that, releases two of the best comedy specials of all time with Delirious and Raw. I mean, that's as good as it gets, and it, even though as the 90s rolled around, things just he didn't. I mean, the decisions that he was making as far as movies to make weren't as sound. Even though I'm a big fan of Boomerang, and I think The Distinguished Gentleman also doesn't get as much love as it probably should. I highly recommend you going back and watch that movie now, and then think about the political climate or situation nowadays as far as how politicians conduct themselves. I think it was a little bit ahead of its time. But of course, he does have that one huge hit of The Nutty Professor, which I think is one of the all time great comedy movies ever. You know, him playing all of those different roles, very individual roles, and just superbly. It's one of my favorites. And on a side note, one of the great soundtracks of all time. Go back and listen to that soundtrack, and you have great songs from As Yet, which is a brief 90s R&B group. You have Case. It's a great soundtrack that I remember listening to a lot. You know, so go ahead and check out the tracks on that one. But I highly recommend this documentary. It's light, it's poignant, it's reflective, and no real tragedy is touched upon, with the exception of the death of his brother, Charlie Murphy, the great Charlie Murphy. But he doesn't talk about it too much. Anyways, what about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.